Thank you, Thea. Thank you for seeing me today.
A pleasure always. I love working with people, so it's exciting to know that you're ready to do some work and you want to make some change in your life.
Yeah, definitely.
So we can start out by saying just start to talk to me a little bit about what it is you want to change, something you want to change in your life, something that's really a big problem, a challenge, an issue, something you're feeling stuck about, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. So I would say for the past maybe 2 or 3 years, I've been feeling just uneasy, kind of stuck. I have a great job that I've been at for, this will be my 10th year. They've been excellent to me, but it just doesn't seem to be feeding me in the way that it once did. And, we're coming off of, we're a couple years, or at least a year out of COVID. And, during COVID, obviously we all had major shifts and just like a crazy time. And I think it caused a lot of us to reevaluate what we were doing. So I guess what I'm struggling with is what is next for me. I've opened a little studio where I'm helping musicians and artists, and I feel like I'm on the right path there, but I don't know what's next. Like, I feel almost stuck again.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I'm hearing, first of all, is that you want to live a life of passion.
Yes.
You want a very passionate life. And so it's not so much about stuck or where I'm going.
Okay.
It's about how do I live my most passionate life.
Yeah.
That's really your question, and that's really what you want to get at.
Yeah.
So you did say previously that there was a time when you first started what you're doing now, that you were, the notion of excitement, you were really, what was going on at that time? What made you feel excited about that?
Right. So I was in a new industry that I knew nothing about, and it was a relatively small business that I could help grow. That was exciting to me.
What was exciting about that?
I think that I was, for lack of better words, a big fish in a small pond, that I could really make a difference, and grow that pond, and you could see tangible things that we could, I would put something into action and there would be a reaction almost immediately for the work that I was putting in. So that was exciting.
So take two things away.
Okay.
One, you're a starter.
Yes.
So whatever you're doing, just recognize you're not there to manage and maintain. You're a starter.
Yes.
So you'd love to start things up, and you'd like to do something that makes a difference.
Yes.
Okay. So where did you feel like you were making a difference?
Well, and at that point, that was the first kind of real job that I had. So the difference was in my paycheck, which was the first time that I was self-sufficient, and supporting myself felt great. I had never had that experience before.
So how did it make a difference in your life, that your ability to support yourself?
Well, even down to a simple thing like going to the grocery store and not having to think about everything I was pulling off of the shelf. For the first time that I realized that I hadn't price checked every single item and made sure that I had enough money. I was in tears at the checkout. So that was like, not that I don't want to be, mindful of spending, but I wasn't, down to the last cent to where I was counting.
Right. So the takeaway of that too is that you really love kind of this ability to move through life easily and effortlessly in terms of the material world.
Yeah.
That's very important to you. So whatever you conjure, you need to always check in and make sure from your authentic self, because we're talking about authentic self here. And really being aligned with our authentic self is part of divine alignment, which is where we want to go with things. So just knowing, to thine own self be true in all ways.
Right.
So as you choose where you go next, and it could be any number of places, it's the old story of, it's not so much what it is you want to do, it's what you want to feel. It's what you want to experience. And if it's as good, if not better, it isn't so much what it is. And we focus a lot in our material world, our modern world, on the what is, rather than really getting connected to who am I and what is it I want to feel and where is my alignment, and then putting that out to the universe, and these are the new energies, and watching what comes back and play with that. So part of the way we create where we are, part of our stuck is that it's our old self that's holding us in. It's not our authentic self in operation. So you're in a maintenance phase of your work right now. So if you're a starter and you love the excitement of the newness, but you probably aren't moving off the mark because there's a little bit of a fear potentially of being able to generate the financial revenue of something new, right? So what you have to do is to believe first, or what we would do is go back and say, why you feel stuck, that is a possibility. Okay, what's holding you into that old belief structure that even though you've got something new, that if you do something else again, you may not have that, okay? And that comes from a time in your life that's unhealed where the money issues were there. Were they there in your past, most recent past? Did you grow up with money issues?
No.
No, not at all, but maybe a past life. So what's often interesting is that there's something that if you grew up around a lot of money, then why wouldn't you believe that money would always be there? What made you, what
I think because when I got into early adulthood, money was definitely scarce.
Okay.
And when my kids were young, it was very scarce.
When you set out on your own, and what was going on at that point in time? So when you had family, when you had providers, father was involved. Father was a good provider growing up. Were you with a father in your next set of lifetimes where you had challenges? Or were you doing it yourself? Or not a good father provider?
Oh gosh, this is this is hard because my dad retired early. And he was in our home, but he did not work that I saw. And the attitudes in the home and the messages in our home was, we feel sorry for people who have to work. And we're thankful for this, lifestyle that we have. But so I didn't grow up with examples of parents who worked. And so I definitely had a fear of working in my early adulthood.
Okay.
When I was having my kids. And I resisted with everything possible of getting a job, which caused our financial situation to be scarce.
Okay, so then again, the imprint comes back in childhood. This is what we always have to see is that what happened back there, this belief that working a job would be a problem. Now you move past that. But initially, when you first got your job, you've had mixed history with that. So your experiences were almost self-fulfilling because sometimes it was remunerative, sometimes it wasn't. So there's the challenge in all of that. So you kind of know that you come with that piece of baggage, with that you're very aware. You've got the awareness of that, which was great. So that belief structure, came from an imprinting from the father. Okay, and your father often is about moving your path in life. And so, there's that's your block. That's all. It's just it's the old imprint. So what you need to work on going forward is to create for yourself a new imprint. You have to imprint from this new experience that work is remunerative. And this experience is your prototype to tell you that work is remunerative. Okay, and when it comes up in your feeling body, as you think about other kinds of work, you have to say to yourself, wait a minute, that fear is the past. But you also have to make sure that as you explore new work, that it provides you with remuneration that you know that you need. So you don't take things willy-nilly. This is where you take all the experiences of the past and you let go of the belief structure fully and say work is remunerative and it can be exciting and can be fulfilling. And that I know that is in fact the case as you move forward. But then you also have to recognize that you have to keep re-imprinting. There's still a bit of the old imprint that's there. So when the fear comes up, it's about re-imprinting intentionally with focus the mantra that life, that work is in fact remunerative and effective and it can be easy and effortless for me and it is my path. And so just by really owning that and owning that, recognizing, that's kind of how you heal and pull yourself from that in a future potential, not just by defaulting, because you kind of defaulted.
Yeah.
You know, you stumbled into where you are, where it worked.
Right.
Now you need to recognize that that is something that you can create. And that's the first step. You create this. We create this. We choose to let go of old patterns, and we choose to put in new patterns. Our patterns are our choice points. Those are our belief structures. That's our power for change, is our changing those patterns through awareness. We don't know they're affecting us. We just end up getting emotional and default and reactive. So just basically, as you conceive of where you want to go next and what you want to do, the first thing is to set the template up, is that work is remunerative, and I have the ability and the desire and the capability of creating that which I'm wanting.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm following. When you're saying set the template up,
you're going to create, you're stuck and you're saying, what am I going to do next?
Yes. So am I writing that down? You
can do it any number of ways.
Okay.
So if we talk next about like, what is it I'm wanting to do?
Right.
You know, and we talk about living a passionate life, and we started out with that.
Yeah.
One of the other things that you want to start looking at all the things that you're passionate about, you want to create from the passionate space. So rather than what's out there, is this right or wrong?
Right.
You create the whole thing now.
Yeah.
Okay. And the template underneath of that is that work is exciting. I can make a difference, and it makes my life easy and effortless. That is the only kind of work I want. That becomes the base template. And you have to keep that as the base, because it's the past that you have to change. Because family is template. It is our base. So you want to put a new base there. You don't want the old one. You want that. That's your new base. And then it's like, the world is my oyster. I want to live a passionate life. And that's where you can start to scribe down. And I would start going back. What I love to do, my book has a lot of processes. There's a section of the book about going back and finding your joy. And there's so many ways to do that. But you can go back into your early childhood and your early life, and you start every decade and list all the things that made you excited, all the jobs, all of the experiences. And then as you look in your day-to-day life, you go out and you say, what is exciting me about everything I do? And sometimes it's a person, place, thing, feeling, experience, and you get really in touch with what you're most passionate about. Because it's often not in the obvious first thing. And with my circle groups, I always talk about, you have to go 3 levels down. Because sometimes it's not the thing we think it is. It's what the thing made us feel. And then that feeling can be gotten in a lot of different places. So when you're starting to write up what I would call your joy journal or your joy list, what really gets me excited is the word. Where do I feel excitement?
Right.
That's a passionate life. Start writing about all those things and getting in touch with that, and start creating the spark of that. That creates the creates the creative spiritual impetus of self. And then you start imagining scenarios, right? But you keep them through the platform in terms of work that's very remunerative financially, that's going to provide that. And so you always run it through that lens as well. So it goes through the lens of excitement and joy and bliss. You let the imaginal mind, and then you see what comes in around you. And that's the other thing that's really critical. We're in a co-creative process always, even though we don't recognize it. So as you begin to play and keep the feeling of play with all of this, as you begin to play with what's next, and you start to create different ideas, you really want to start to look at what comes back at you. What comes back into play in your field? A song, a book, something that someone says, an offering that comes through. And we talk about that as synchronicities, but what I have really come to learn is that it is not as literal as we think. That came to me. So I think that because it was synchronistic, that's it. And it's like, no, it's a piece in the treasure hunt to what is. Because aligning ourselves really completely with our authentic self is not something we have done before, intentionally and co-creatively. So it takes some practice and work. So sometimes that synchronistic thing is just the next thing to move toward, the next thing to play with, play around with, right? And so we step into it and we see what that experience gives us. And maybe we get the hit and go, this is it.
Right.
It's clarity. When it's it, there's total clarity. You know that. That's what alignment is. It's like, I know in every bit of my body and every bone, my mind, everything says yes, right? And if it doesn't all say yes, you say, well, what piece says yes? Okay? And then you put it back into the playground of your imaginal co-creative process. And we actually, in the new energies, spend more time imagining and creating potentiality. And once it's aligned, we just step into it.
Yeah.
So we're not making it happen. We're not pushing. We're not, it's really about getting in touch with the fire within, the passion within, and using the imaginal mind to create scenarios and then allow things to come back to us and see and feel and use our intuitive body to say what piece of that does or doesn't. And we're refining that.
Okay.
And that's how we actually really are refining what truly we're passionate about.
Yeah.
Because we start with the past. We have that past. When we look at our present experiences, and then we imagine other things, and then as they come into us, that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
But take it on as playful. Don't take it on as work. That's real important. It's like just let it be. And part of what allows us to be playful about things is the concept of divine timing. So when things come together, they often come together because we have the alignment of what we want, and all that we are wanting comes through to us at that time.
Right.
It's the old story about a house that we want, and we think we want it and we're ready to move, and then all of a sudden the house that we want comes to us, but the owner hadn't sold it yet. So if that's your house, you have to wait for that, and that's kind of the material version of divine timing. But there's also another level of divine timing with all of that. There is this notion that we are not ready to receive that which we are wanting. Okay?
Yeah.
So sometimes there's that inner work that needs to transpire. And what you'll get in your experience of your exploration of who am I and what do I want, you'll get these pushbacks of, ooh, why am I feeling uncomfortable with something? Not just, oh, this was exciting, this was uncomfortable. It's like, ooh, here's something I need to let go of. Here's some baggage I need to let go of as well.
Right.
And when we do really thorough sessions, when we do our extensive sessions, we'll look at a couple series of those little garbage bags. And sometimes you have what you have is the self-awareness of that. Then you'll have the experience of it coming up in real time, but you'll be able to say, oh, wait a minute, that's that piece of baggage, and I just actually need to let go of that.
Yeah.
All it is it's just holding me back. It's just holding me back. And so, again, if we're not fully aligned, we can't make it manifest. So if we're carrying some of the baggage. So that's why the process is go explore your passion itself, keep your platform there.
Right.
And then as you go through all of that, let whatever needs to come up to be released around that true self, let it come up and look at it and let it go.
Right.
Okay. And as you see more of what you're wanting, move toward that.
Okay.
And then it's a refinement of the letting go and the refinement of what to go to. And then once it's aligned, truly, it will just come to you.
Okay.
It will really come in. So see how it's all really more an inner process
definitely.
than an outer process.
Definitely. So I see more alone time in my future, more meditating and more playful mind and almost
imaginal creative process.
Yeah, like fantasizing and putting myself in certain situations and seeing if that feels good and fits.
Absolutely.
And,
we call that daydreaming, and that's really very, very, very valuable. We've had it backwards, and it's been kind of constructed that way to kind of take the power away from humans, because really our intuition and our feeling that passion is where we really have our power of creation.
Yeah.
And our mind wasn't there to make decisions. It was to be the imaginal mind that was to be activated to be the creator. So to create images and designer. It's the designer and the heart is the decider. And so it's like flipping it around a little bit. And you're absolutely right in terms of the time. In my book, the first chapter of my book, I was told was so clearly about solitude.
Yeah.
And that in order, if this is the new way of showing up to create, we have to have this in our life every day. And that to me is part of what sacred living is that you recognize that every day there's a space and time where you go in contemplatively, meditatively, in stillness and in silence, but it has to be done in solitude so that you don't have the distraction, so that you can hear the still voice within and the higher self and the guidance to be able to get downloads of potentialities and to do your imaginal playtime. And it should be every day. Really, ideally, that would be the goal, because that's how we should be creating all the time, everything in our life. So that's the whole the difference in the sacred life versus I'm going to do it sometime in retreat to be able to create this next thing. Well, let's just say everything is like that now.
Yeah.
Let's make all of life unfold that way. And the more you do it, the better you get at that, the less time you really need. You can go down very quickly. You can get hits very quickly. You can go into imaginal processing really fast. And every day when you do it, it's like you garner an awful lot of information. So it happens even quicker when you devote that kind of time to it. Now, the way that you are able to get into that space in the next chapter of the book is about simplicity. Because what often happens is we see all this, we hear, we say, oh yeah, we need to do that. I need to create a lot of solitude time for myself. Well, how busy is your life? How much do you have going on with family, friends, and a whole constructed lifestyle? How do you step out of that? It generally does take, realistically, a look at simplifying something in your life to create that space. And so be prepared to do that, like already start to consider where there's something that you need to simplify so that can actually happen. And there has to be a commitment to simplification. It really does. And whether you take one thing out of your life and put that time frame into that time frame, or you change how you do something in terms of emotional energy that you put into something, which gives you time back. I mean, it can be literal and it can be internal. But the commitment to simplicity really helps give us that solitude time. And then, being able to surrender and be in the present moment is kind of how you construct in all of that. But I get a sense that you have a good awareness of how to do that, that you know to get into that meditative, contemplative space and just surrender and allow for things to come in and flood in and play with that. And that's really important. For some people, that's the bigger challenge.
Sure. Yeah,
they have a lot of free time. They're simple, they don't know how to do the surrender piece. So, and then once you get on that platform, when you're really present and you're playing there, that's where you can just constantly stay in alignment with self, know thyself, stay connected to that self, and create a joy life. And then everything that you do for yourself and others is all coming from this high vibrational state. And isn't that what we all want?
Right.
Isn't that the life we really want to lead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.